Bay County NAACP Youth Council with Ms. Shelley Clark. I'm also a co-event coordinator for one of the artistic initiatives that is growing within the city called Speak On It with myself and Ms. Brittany Jackson. Basically every month what we do is we allow poets, singers, and various other acts to get on stage, speak on a particular topic, and we speak on some of the issues within our community as well. But more importantly, I am a concerned citizen within this state wanting to address the issues that are plaguing us, because I feel as though, particularly in this city, there's not necessarily a voice that speaks primarily for the community of African Americans and people of color within this city. And so, what do you say, why should we address this? I'm glad you asked. And we will start by stating that the reason is to rise because February 26, 2012, it opened the eyes of many people. It began an ongoing process in civil rights history, an effort for the ultra-conservative Republican to re-implement a system that robs African Americans and Latinos of their basic human rights and privileges in not only the state of Florida, but throughout this country. Trayvon Martin, an African American teenager from Miami, Florida, was visiting his father in Sanford, Florida. During halftime of the 2012 NBA All-Star game, Trayvon left the home where he was watching the game to go to the neighborhood 7-Eleven for a bag of Skittles and an Arizona iced tea. As he was returning, the self-appointed neighborhood watchman, George Zimmerman, decided Trayvon's hoodie and erratic behavior marked him as someone suspicious who didn't belong in the neighborhood. Zimmerman later identified this erratic behavior as speeding up when followed and appearing to avoid the SUV with which Zimmerman was telling the team. After calling the police and being told by the 911 dispatcher that the authorities were on their way and not to follow Trayvon, nor exit his vehicle, Mr. Zimmerman left his vehicle instead. As a direct result of his refusal to follow the directives of the 911 dispatcher, Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin entered into an altercation where Zimmerman shot Trayvon 4 times, killing him in the process. Sanford police arrived on the scene and detained Mr. Zimmerman, who later that evening was released without being tested for drugs, alcohol, or other intoxicants, and without being arrested or charged with any crime due to his claim of self-defense under Florida's Stand Your Ground law. After a nationwide protest against the treatment of this case, George Zimmerman was arrested on April of last year and charged with second-degree murder. Now, within this presentation, it is not my purpose to place Mr. Zimmerman on trial because that day is coming. However, the mishandling of this case and the vilification of the victim in the media and at the scene of the crime is a continuation in the state's storied and well-documented history of devaluing African American and minority life. Trayvon Martin's killer was initially released uncharged because the state of Florida and its right-wing ultra-conservative contingent do not value African American life unless they are able to control our way of life. This is not an accident. Neither is the results of laws which we have embarrassingly left on the books from long ago. These are not modern laws, but they serve one purpose: to systematically and comprehensively constrain the lives of people of color in the state of Florida. So, let's start where they want for this situation to begin. They want it to start in the classroom. In an area where the academic minds of our next generation are shaped and molded for greatness, the academic standards by which our children are measured should certainly be an even playing field. Do you not agree? However, the Florida State Board of Education sees it differently. In October of 2012, they presented a new 5-year strategic plan that narrowed but not fully closed in the achievement gap between minorities and white students. Black students would increase their language skills at grade or above reading scores from 38 to 74% by the 2017-2018 school year. Their goal for math would be to increase by 40 to 74%. The goal for Hispanics within that same time frame would go from 53% to 81% in reading and 55 to 80% in math. White students, however, are expected to go up from 69 to 88% in reading and from 68 to 86% in math. Now, according to an article written in the October 16, 2012 edition of the Sacramento Observer by Bill Katzer of the Associated Press, board member John Padgett questioned why, regardless of racial or ethnic background, would achievement goals for all children not be the same. The response he was given by board member Roberto Martinez was that would be a heck of a statement, but noted that Black and Hispanic children are starting at a different place. While board member Kathleen Shanahan added, we have to be realistic. I agree with her. We should be realistic. Realistically, if you have different standards based on artificial constructs, then you can't call them standards anymore. What you can call them is separate but equal, and as we all know, separate but equal is never equal. It is only ever separate. Creating separate standards based solely on race is not realistic. It's racist. It ignores the facts of education, that class and overall economic conditions impact academic achievement far more than race. It further ignores the fact that the achievement gap these standards are meant to overcome are a result of the artificially constructed differences between races. So basically, in a nutshell, what the Board of Education is trying to tell us is, Miss Lisa, what's your name again, huh? Abby. How are you, Abby?
I'm good.
That's wonderful. Now let's say, Abby, you live here on the beach, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you go to Arnold High School.
Yes, sir.
Abby, and let's throw out Kenya. Kenya's an African-American student that goes to Arnold High School, as well as Abby. Let's say, for example, Abby and Kenya have been friends for their entire lives, practically since birth. They have went to the same schools since kindergarten, been in the same classes, given the same type of education, and now they're both, what grade are you in at? 10th. And now they're both sophomores at Arnold High School. And they're being given the same type of education at Arnold High School. What the Board of Education is trying to tell us is that because of the fact that Kenya is an African American student and Abby is a Caucasian student, that Abby will raise at a better level in reading and mathematics than Kenya will, based solely on her racial and ethnic background. That's right. This is not based on the environment that the schools that they go to are in. This is not based on the economic conditions of Abby and Kenya, which for me, I would tend to believe that that would be where this is based on. That would be what this would be based on. But the statistical data is based solely on the fact that Kenya's Black, Abby's white. And because of the fact that Abby's white, Abby will reach 86% in math and 88% in reading, while Kenya will reach only to 74% in reading and 74% in math. That, my friends, is an outrage, and that, my friends, is not only racist, but it's unethical and at times should be unlawful. I have my sister here. My sister Deshonda, and I would say that she's a great representation of our working middle class single mom, who she has a six-year-old son by the name of Caleb Kearns, who goes to University Academy, located on the campus of FSU, Panama City. Somewhat really fluent in Spanish. Spanish is his favorite class. Say habla español. But what they're trying to tell us is that no matter how much he wants to reach at the highest level that he can possibly reach at within education, our Board of Education only values him to reach 74% by the time we get to 2017-2018 school year. Couple that with the fact that as we know, the school-to-prison pipeline is still flowing at alarming rates, with black students being 3 times more likely to be referred to the juvenile justice system than their Caucasian peers, and 4 times more likely to be suspended out of school. This is an outrage in a country that states in its Pledge of Allegiance that it values liberty and justice for all people. So the question is, why teach these values within our schools and to our next generation if we as a state and ultimately a nation do not sincerely live the values that we stand upon? We can tell children these things, but if we do that while we show them, then these statements are lies, and then we're wasting our time. Once we as African Americans have the contradictory seed of being shown we have less value by society while being told that we all have the same opportunities, as a result, we internalize that contradiction. If we are failing it, then it must be our fault. If we can never succeed by normal means, then we must acquire the respect that we deserve and the things we need to survive in this world by any means possible. Those situations, in some cases, though, lead to individuals making poor decisions and being incarcerated, where many of the basic human rights and privileges are stripped away, and the phrase taxation without representation truly comes into play. The state continues to, and is getting closer to, privatizing the prison system, which places prisoners as a profitable commodity instead of humans that deserve rehabilitation. We have gone this direction before, and apparently the clause in the 13th Amendment is in full effect and greatly enforced here in the state of Florida. Because honestly, what's the best way to gain involuntary servitude from individuals, many of those which have been freed due to the 13th Amendment, without violating said amendment? The best way to do it is to put them in an area where they have no choice but to try to survive in any way, shape, form, or fashion that they normally can, and then once you get them into the system, give them years within the double digits, and put them in a prison where there are moments there that they're in prison and they're not even making license plates anymore. I had a friend of mine who, he did a little time within a correctional facility down in Miami, Florida. And he came out, and we were hanging out, and he said, yeah, man, I was in prison, and we were making USPA polos. And I was like, come again? So I pulled one out, because I had just bought one from Sears. And I said, you all making these? He was like, yeah, I probably made that one. I immediately went back to Sears, gave them that polo back. I need my 25 bucks back. Because this is what we're now doing in our correctional facilities. Instead of rehabilitating them to where they could possibly get some type of degree or diploma or some type of license for job training, we just got them making the shoes on your feet.